Welcome back, everybody. Today we are diving into something a little different, the connection between zinc and endometriosis. We've got this article here. It's called Supplemented Inorganic Zinc Increases Endometriosis Risk, and it's written by Joachim Bartoll. And whew, let me tell you, this author, he has some strong opinions about this stuff.
Yeah, he really wants us to think differently about where we get our zinc and like what it's doing in our bodies.
That's right. I mean, we always hear zinc is, good for you, especially for immunity. But this article is saying there's a difference between organic zinc, which we get from animal sources, and inorganic zinc from plants and supplements. Before we get into that, though, could you just give us a real quick, endometriosis 101, in case anyone listening isn't familiar?
Sure. Endometriosis is a condition where tissue, similar to the lining of the uterus, grows outside of the uterus.
Okay.
So, places like the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, even the lining of the pelvis. And this tissue it's tied to the female reproductive cycle. So, each month as hormone levels change, it builds up, breaks down, bleeds, just like the lining inside the uterus does during a period.
So it's like having a period, but the tissue is in the wrong spot, causing pain and problems.
Exactly. And the key thing for our zinc discussion here is that endometriosis involves this chronic healing response. So the body is constantly trying to repair and remodel this misplaced tissue. Okay,
so that's our backdrop. Now let's get back to this whole zinc thing. The article, it's really focused on this organic versus inorganic zinc. Why does that even matter? Isn't it all just zinc?
Well, it has to do with how our bodies use these different forms of zinc. Think about it this way. Organic zinc, the kind you get from animal foods. It's like a pre-assembled Lego set. Our bodies recognize it. They can easily use it to build what they need. But inorganic zinc, it's more like you have this bucket of random plastic pieces. Yeah. Some of it might be useful, but our bodies, they have to work a lot harder to sort of convert it into something that they can actually use.
I like that analogy. So we need that Lego brick version of zinc.
Yeah.
To build healthy tissues and all that.
Exactly. And this isn't just a theoretical difference. A recent study actually found this kind of surprising link between zinc intake and endometriosis risk in American women.
What do they find?
Well, the study relied on, the participants reporting what they ate, which we know can be a little unreliable, but it revealed something unexpected. Higher zinc intake was associated with an increased risk of endometriosis.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So this goes against what a lot of researchers initially thought.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, it seems so counterintuitive that more zinc would be linked to a higher risk.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where our author, Mr. Bartoll, really makes his case.
He does. His argument is that it's the inorganic zinc, the kind from supplements and plants, that's the problem. He thinks that it actually disrupts these natural processes and leads to tissue damage, and that could contribute to endometriosis.
Okay, but how does zinc go from being this helpful nutrient to being a troublemaker?
Well, he points to this protein called metallothionein. Think of it like your body's cleanup crew for metals, right?
Okay.
It grabs onto excess zinc and other metals and helps to flush them out. Bartoll suggests that too much inorganic zinc basically overwhelms metallothionein.
Oh, so it can't do its job.
Exactly. Yeah, it gets too busy dealing with this inorganic zinc overload, and it can't keep everything else running smoothly. And it's important to point out, too, that the author views these processes, as the body's detoxification and repair systems. He doesn't like to use the term immune system. He thinks that's inaccurate.
Interesting. So if we're following his logic here, is he saying that endometriosis is less about an immune system gone haywire and more about the body just struggling with too much inorganic zinc?
Yeah, that's the core of his argument. And he links this to the activity of those enzymes we talked about earlier called MMPs, which are crucial for breaking down damaged tissue.
Right. And how are those connected to zinc?
Well, MMPs, they actually need zinc to function properly. Mm-hmm. And since the female reproductive system is, always remodeling tissue, there's this high demand for MMPs in that area. And so Bartoll's theory is that inorganic zinc might actually interfere with MMP activity.
Got it.
Kind of disrupting that balance of tissue breakdown and repair.
So those MMPs, they're kind of like the plumbers, right? And if they get clogged up with the wrong kind of zinc, the whole system backs up, and then you get that chronic inflammation and the tissue buildup that's so characteristic of endometriosis.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. In fact, the author uses a clogged drain analogy to describe it.
So what's his solution? I mean, he suggests a pretty radical dietary change, right?
He does. He believes that eliminating inorganic zinc entirely, by going fully carnivore, is the key to kind of restoring balance and letting the body's natural repair processes work as they should.
Wow. Now, that is a bold statement. I'm definitely curious to hear more about his reasoning on that.
Well, he argues that, animal foods, they're the most bioavailable source of nutrients. So that means they're easier for our bodies to absorb and use. He actually goes so far as to say that plant-based foods are detrimental to our health.
Wow, he really doesn't hold back, does he? I know it's a controversial stance. I get it. There's so much debate about plant-based diets these days. But even if we don't, agree with everything he says, it does make you think about where our nutrients are coming from and how our modern diet might be playing a role in some of these health issues that we're seeing more and more of.
Yeah, it definitely raises some important questions. Could the forms of nutrients we consume, not just, the quantity, be impacting our health in ways that we haven't really considered before? It's something to think about.
Absolutely. But before we get too far down that road, why don't we pause here for a moment? We'll pick up this discussion in part 2.
Picking where we left off, I think it's important to emphasize that, Bartoll's view on plant-based foods it's pretty extreme.
Right.
A lot of experts would say that a balanced diet, including both animal and plant-based foods, is really essential for optimal health.
Right. It's about finding that balance that works for you.
Exactly.
But even if we don't go full carnivore, this whole deep dive really makes you think about the quality of the nutrients.
Yeah. It's a good point. We've been so focused on just getting enough vitamins and minerals that we may have overlooked whether our bodies can actually use them, effectively. It's like filling your car with the wrong kind of fuel.
Okay.
It might look like gas, but it won't actually make your engine run properly.
That's a good analogy. And it really highlights, Bartoll's whole point.
Right.
That the form of zinc really matters.
Yeah.
And potentially this applies to other nutrients too.
Exactly. It's not just about the quantity, it's about the quality.
Right.
Where our food comes from, how it's grown or raised, how it's processed.
Right.
All of that can influence the bioavailability of those nutrients.
So even if you're not, ready to give up your veggies entirely, this deep dive is encouraging us to at least be more mindful about the sources of our nutrients.
Absolutely. Choosing whole, unprocessed foods, whether it's plant-based or animal-based, that's always a good starting point.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive into zinc and endometriosis?
Well, first and foremost, not all zinc is created equal.
Right.
Organic zinc, the kind that we get from animal sources, it's just more easily used by our bodies than inorganic zinc from plants and supplements.
And this difference might be especially important for women with endometriosis.
Right.
This study we talked about found that link between higher zinc intake and an increased risk of endometriosis.
Exactly. And that kind of unexpected finding does lend some support to Bartoll's hypothesis that inorganic zinc could actually be contributing to the condition.
Okay.
He suggests that it might be disrupting tissue repair processes and contributing to that, that chronic inflammation that's associated with endometriosis.
And of course, he proposes that pretty radical solution.
He does.
Going fully carnivore to eliminate inorganic zinc.
Well, that's certainly a controversial approach. It does make you think critically about our dietary choices and the forms of nutrients that we're taking in.
Right.
It begs the question, could our modern diet actually be playing a role in the rise of these chronic inflammatory conditions?
It's a thought-provoking idea for sure. And it definitely highlights the need for more research in this area.
I agree. And in the meantime, if you're concerned about endometriosis or any other chronic condition, talking to your doctor, maybe a registered dietitian, about your diet and lifestyle is never a bad idea.
Great advice.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm going to leave our listeners with a final question to ponder.
Okay.
If inorganic zinc could be a factor in health issues like endometriosis, what other areas of our health might be impacted by the forms of nutrients we consume? It's definitely something to think about as you consider your own dietary choices and the sources of zinc.
It really is. And as we learn more about nutrition and health and how those two things work together, it's becoming more and more clear that it's not just about, what we eat, but the forms of those nutrients and how our bodies actually process them.
Exactly. This deep dive has really been a good reminder that there's always more to discover
always.
And what we think we know about nutrition, it's always evolving.
That's the beauty of it, though. The more we learn, the better equipped we are to really make informed decisions about our health.
Well said. Until next time, happy deep diving, everyone.
Supplemented Inorganic Zinc Increase Endometriosis Risk and AI Chat. By Joachim Bartoll, November 7, 2024. Send to Kindle. The shills at Medical News Today recently published another piece of garbage where they, and the mentally handicapped researchers of the quoted study, cannot differentiate between natural organic zinc and inorganic or synthetic forms of zinc that is used in supplements or to fortify processed foods. A very simple and universal rule is that any nutrient from an animal is organic, non-toxic and 100% bioavailable to humans, while anything else, whether it's plant-based or synthetically made in a factory, is inorganic, chemically different, and toxic to humans. This is because the chemically different forms found in plants or that are artificially made needs to be converted, chelated, in the body, and this process only yields about a 10 to 60% conversion rate, depending on your health and nutritional status. The rest will just sit around in the blood, giving a false sense of nutrient status on any useless blood test, and then attach themselves to tissues where they cause damage. To summarize, any inorganic compound, be it a metal or a mineral that is not converted and used by the body, is the same thing as a toxin, a poisonous compound that will cause damage. So, let's take a quick look at this article. A recent study suggests a potential link between higher dietary zinc intake and increased risk of endometriosis in American women compared to those with lower zinc consumption. You say dietary intake. Yet, most people have no clue of what to eat as they stuff themselves with extremely unnatural and toxic plant-based and processed crap. However, we humans are obligate hyper-carnivores and we are constructed to consume animal-based foods, and anything else, the complete garbage that most people consume, are very toxic and damaging to us. This is simple biology and physiology and has been known for hundreds of years. So, if you actually would follow our natural human carnivore diet, this would be impossible, as the zinc found in animal-based foods are organic, easily absorbed and easily discarded if you get more than you need. In other words, the researchers should say that there is a potential link between the intake of inorganic zinc and increased risk of endometriosis. Endometriosis is a condition characterized by the growth of endometrial tissue outside the uterus, typically on the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and pelvic peritoneum, and it's caused by a chronic healing response, which I will explain in a minute. Zinc is a trace mineral essential for numerous bodily functions, from insulin production to immune system health. It also plays a role in hormone regulation, DNA, and protein synthesis, and cell division and growth. DNA is a silly pseudoscientific theory just like the non-existing immune system, both which are totally unproven, but yes, it's a very important trace mineral. Our bodies cannot store zinc, so we must obtain it through our diet. However, maintaining the right balance is key, as both too much and too little zinc can disrupt human physiology. While we need to obtain it through our diet, as with most nutrients, if the source is natural, as in animal-based, you never need to worry about balance or getting too much. Not really about getting too little either, as there is plenty of zinc in meat, seafood, and eggs. Most animal-based foods are perfectly balanced and they contain all nutrients we need, as they sustain life itself. To be clear, if the source is animal-based, you can never get too much of a nutrient as it is presented in its natural form, exactly as it is stored in our bodies. In simple terms, our bodies recognize the nutrient and know exactly what to do with it, which also means that our body can efficiently eliminate any excess. The current study involved a secondary analysis of data collected from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey conducted between 1999 and 2006, focusing on American women ages 20 to 54. Participants self-reported their endometriosis diagnosis in a reproductive health questionnaire and documented their dietary zinc consumption by providing 24-hour recalls of their food intake. Researchers assessed one of these 24-hour recalls to estimate each participant's usual dietary zinc consumption. The researchers conducted multiple statistical analyses to examine the relationship between zinc intake and the risk of endometriosis while considering these various influencing factors. Surveys with a 24-hour recall is not what I would call a reliable basis for a study. But let's roll with it as I can at least provide some useful information when explaining every backwards thinking mistake they made and provide some more insight into how our bodies actually function. Women who took dietary supplements, exercised moderately, and lived with a partner or had a higher income tended to consume more zinc in their diets. So, they took dietary supplements, and I can bet that their diet was anything but high in meat or other animal-based foods, as women often are programmed and deceived into favoring plant-based garbage, such as vegetables, seeds, and grains. So, most of that zinc would come from inorganic and even artificial sources. That's really bad. Interestingly, the researchers initially hypothesized that higher dietary zinc would lower the risk of endometriosis. However, they found that higher zinc intake might increase the chance of developing endometriosis. That's because the researchers are total fucktards, as in seriously retarded, and do not even understand basic biochemistry. Zinc is not zinc across the board, as with any mineral. Zinc from supplements or from plant-based sources are very chemically different to the zinc found in animal-based foods, and that also means that it impacts the body differently. Women who consumed over 14 milligrams, mg, of zinc daily appeared to have a 60% higher risk of endometriosis compared to those who consumed 8 milligrams a day or less. Again, 14 milligrams of mostly toxic inorganic and useless zinc that cannot be properly broken down and will instead accumulate in tissues and organs, causing severe damage. Filingeri highlighted that this research challenges some of the previous literature discussing zinc's role in reproductive health, which has reported lower zinc levels in women with endometriosis. For FCK's sake, learn to differentiate between organic zinc and inorganic zinc. The authors suggest this difference might be due to how zinc is absorbed and metabolized in studies that look at blood versus urine levels, or because earlier studies included smaller sample sizes. Yes, now you are on the right track. In older studies, meat consumption was much higher and people got more organic and useful zinc compared to the idiots today who consume plant-based slave slop and pop useless supplements by the dozen. And if you consume a lot of real organic zinc, urine levels will be higher as the excess can easily be excreted, while inorganic zinc from plants or supplements will only generate a minuscule of useful zinc while the rest end up in tissues and organs causing damage. Blood levels, however, will show the same, as you only identify zinc as zinc and do not differentiate between organic and inorganic sources. Zinc may play a role in endometriosis by managing the body's immune responses and reducing oxidative stress, which might contribute to developing endometriosis. It also helps control enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, MMPs, which are important for tissue repair and growth. No, you complete idiots. There is no such thing as an immune response. There are toxins that attach to tissues causing damage, and there is our natural detoxification and repair process. Zinc is necessary to activate the matrix metalloproteinases enzymes in the damaged area, contributing to the healing process as MMPs degrade extracellular matrix proteins, facilitating the breakdown of damaged tissue. Studies suggest women with endometriosis might have higher levels of certain types of these enzymes, specifically MMP2 and MMP9. Well, both MMP2 and MMP9 breaks down damaged tissues such as gelatin, collagen, elastin, core proteins, and fibronectin. This is a natural process during various stages of the female reproductive cycle, including menstruation, uterine lining is shed, ovulation, ruptured follicle, and remodeling of endometrial tissue as in tissue growth and differentiation, which prepares the uterus for potential implantation of a fertilized egg. While MMP2 and MMP9 are involved in some tissue repair all over the body, they are concentrated in the female reproductive area, as this is a continuous loop of tissue breakdown and repair throughout a woman's life as long as she is fertile. If levels are higher than normal, it shows that there is additional damage being done to these areas. And since MMP2 and MMP9 break down damaged tissue, the damage is likely caused by toxins, and we will get to this in a bit. Eliza Whitaker MS, RDN, a women's health dietitian and founder of Nourish Nutrition and Fitness, who was not involved in the study, said that these enzymes might contribute to the spread of endometriotic tissue outside its typical location. She explained that as these MMPs break down the extracellular matrix surrounding tissue structure, they promote the release of certain inflammatory molecules and help endometrial cells spread into nearby tissues. Another imbecile. Again, the laws of nature and biology states that a living organism will never hurt itself. There is never such a thing as a spread of something that can cause damage caused by something produced by the body. That is total insanity. What actually happens is that certain toxins bind to these areas and damage the tissue. These MMPs simply break down damaged tissue so that the body can regenerate and build new healthy tissue. However, this requires all the necessary building blocks, as in nutrients from real food, and if the person has nutrient deficiencies, as most people do today due to a plant-based and processed diet, this process will be slow or even halted, as both detoxification and healing will be affected. This causes a chronic loop of detoxing, breaking down tissue, and building new tissue that immediately gets exposed to the same toxins. Over time, this chronic loop of the healing process, as in chronic inflammation, will cause both scar tissue and an extra buildup of protective cell mass as the body is both overwhelmed with toxic exposure and lacks the resources to properly heal due to a bad diet and lifestyle. Again, this is not the fault of the body, as it does everything it can to ensure your survival. It's the fault of your negligence to diet and lifestyle, as in exposure to toxins that damages your body, and consuming food that is not species appropriate, and both induce toxic damage and contribute to nutrient deficiencies. However, she noted, we think this happens when zinc levels are low. Actually, it happens if any nutrient is low or missing in the diet. But yes, zinc is crucial for MMP2 and MMP9. Another potential mechanism involves a protein that binds zinc after it's absorbed in the diet, metallothionein, Whitaker said. As people age or when they have chronic inflammation, the amount of metallothionein in the body tends to rise. When metallothionein traps zinc, less zinc is available to help certain enzymes work and block MMPs. Oh, my, this Whitaker lady is incredibly stupid. I'm almost at loss for words. How can you not know what metallothionein does in the body? It's described in the frickin' name, for God's sake. Now, if you actually would have opened a biochemistry or biology book once in your life, you should know that metallothionein binds to inorganic metals, hence the name, and also to inorganic minerals to render them harmless by letting the body expel them, as they otherwise will lodge themselves into tissues, causing damage and the need for more resource-demanding detoxification processes. Metallothionein is also used in the chelation process together with other chaperone proteins to convert inorganic minerals to something organic and usable. It can also bind to organic zinc if the levels are high, functioning as a zinc buffer, releasing it once again when the concentration is lower. However, if it can't convert the inorganic zinc, it will simply stay bound to it and be discharged by the body. So, it's very logical that metallothionein increases when there is inflammation, as inflammation is the manifestation of a healing process, as in detoxification and tissue repair, especially if the toxic damage is caused by any kinds of inorganic metals or minerals that the body can't break down and use. And the older you get, the more likely it is that you have accumulated a lot of these inorganic toxins, hence higher levels of metallothionein. Still, if your body is compromised by a bad diet and you expose yourself to these toxins daily, it won't be able to keep up and toxins will still accumulate in tissues, no matter how much metallothionein it will be able to produce. This is child-level logic, and these people are either extremely stupid, brainwashed and blindfolded, or they are pathological liars and deceivers. So, simply stating that the zinc you provide some poor bastard ends up bound to metallothionein is the same thing as saying that the zinc the person gets is inorganic, non-absorbable, and therefore both toxic and damaging. Again, this is not about real organic zinc as found in animal-based foods. This is all about the toxic inorganic zinc you find in all plant-based foods, in processed foods, in supplements, and in fortified foods. Additionally, while low zinc availability poses a concern, high zinc availability may result in immunosuppression, added Filingeri. This is relevant because endometriosis has been linked to immune dysfunction and chronic inflammation. At this point, I'm at loss for words. Yes, a high amount of inorganic zinc, as in taking supplements, adding fortified food, or seeking out vegetables or other plants that are rich in inorganic zinc, will poison the body. It's not real organic zinc. Only a small fraction of it can be broken down and converted, the rest just sits around in the blood until it attaches itself to tissue, causing damage. And tissue that depends on remodeling, such as the reproductive tissues in women, are in more need of zinc for the matrix metalloproteinases enzymes, MMPs, so a lot of inorganic zinc ends up in this area of the body. And again, since it can't be used by the body due to its inorganic chemical form, it lodges into the tissues, causing the body to start a detoxification and repair/healing process. If you continue to poison your body with the same inorganic zinc, the detoxification and healing process might become chronic, especially if you have nutrient deficiencies or are in bad health. And as explained earlier, this can cause extra cell masses and scar tissue from the continuous loop of breaking down toxins and tissues and building new tissue that immediately gets poisoned, repeating the process over and over again. After this, MNT lists some recommendations for zinc, and while they actually recommend beef and oysters, they also recommend extremely toxic and inorganic slave edibles such as pumpkin seeds and lentils, crap that is ridden with anti-nutrients and defense chemicals. Frickin' morons. They do, however, caution about zinc supplements, but most people will not listen to that, as they do not explain or even mention the differences between inorganic toxic plant-based or artificial zinc and that of organic natural animal-based zinc, or how the body handles them. So, to summarize, we can view the cause of endometriosis as the following pattern. As long as a female is fertile, a tissue remodeling process occurs during each ovulation cycle, preparing the woman for a pregnancy, which increases the need for MMP2 and MMP9. As MMP2 and MMP9 are heavily dependent on zinc, the presence of this trace mineral increases in the area. However, only organic zinc can be absorbed and used, while inorganic zinc will bind to the tissues instead, increasing the toxic load and the damage. If there is too much inorganic toxic zinc for the body to detox, or if the woman have nutrient deficiencies and can't detox properly, or if she has deficiencies that slow down or even halt the repair process, the detoxification and repair cycle will be on loop, as in a chronic condition. This will over time cause extra tissue buildup as well as scar tissue, what is called endometriosis. This is not hard to figure out if you understand how nature works, that a living organism's own physiology will never hurt itself, and that all damage is caused by foreign unrecognizable compounds, such as toxins and inorganic nutrients, as in things that the body can't break down and utilize. So, again, if you are animal-based, or even better, fully carnivore, you never have to worry about things like these, as all nutrients in animal foods are fully bioavailable and in the correct chemical form to be directly utilized by our bodies without any conversion or toxic spill. And, as stated previously, This also means that any excess of a nutrient is totally harmless and can easily be stored in our organs or excreted by our body. Only toxins and compounds the body can't use attach to tissues causing damage, and animal-based foods contain none of them. Animal-based foods are the only source of nourishment that is completely non-toxic and also 100% bioavailable. And if you suffer from endometriosis, you need to immediately remove all inorganic zinc from your diet, as in all supplements and all plant-based foods that contain zinc. Preferably, you need to remove all plant-based and processed foods and go fully animal-based or fully carnivore. Once you have done the transition, 6 to 12 weeks, you should experiment with prolonged fasting, as autophagy, our natural cell recycling mechanism, might break down some of that unneeded tissue, including some scar tissue, but that will take time. If you need help, you know where to reach me. If you need help with any kind of health problems or transitioning from your current way of eating to our natural species-appropriate, species-specific way of eating, I'm available for both coaching and consultation. Endometriosis and zinc, an FAQ. What is the difference between organic and inorganic zinc? Organic zinc refers to zinc derived from animal sources like meat, seafood, and eggs. This form is naturally occurring and readily absorbed by the human body. Inorganic zinc, on the other hand, is found in plant-based foods, supplements, and fortified foods. It has a different chemical structure and requires conversion, chelation, within the body to become usable, a process that is often inefficient. Why is inorganic zinc potentially harmful? The human body can only utilize a small percentage of inorganic zinc. The unconverted portion remains in the bloodstream and can attach to tissues, causing damage and triggering a chronic healing response. This continuous cycle of damage and repair can lead to issues like endometriosis. How is zinc related to endometriosis? Zinc plays a vital role in activating enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, MMPs, particularly MMP2 and MMP9. These enzymes are crucial for tissue repair and growth, especially in the female reproductive system where they break down damaged tissue during menstruation, ovulation, and endometrial remodeling. Elevated levels of MMP2 and MMP9, often seen in endometriosis, suggest an ongoing process of tissue damage and repair, potentially fueled by the presence of inorganic zinc. What is metallothionein and how does it interact with zinc? Metallothionein is a protein that binds to and neutralizes inorganic metals and minerals, including inorganic zinc, to protect the body from their harmful effects. An increase in metallothionein levels often indicates a higher presence of inorganic toxins that the body is trying to eliminate. Can high zinc intake suppress the immune system? While zinc is essential for immune function, excessive intake of inorganic zinc can overwhelm the body's detoxification processes and lead to immunosuppression. This is relevant to endometriosis as the condition has been linked to immune dysfunction and chronic inflammation. What dietary advice is given for managing endometriosis? The most crucial step is to eliminate inorganic zinc from your diet. This means avoiding supplements, fortified foods, and plant-based sources high in zinc. Ideally, transition to an animal-based or fully carnivore diet to ensure you are consuming only organic, bioavailable zinc. Can prolonged fasting help with endometriosis? Prolonged fasting can stimulate autophagy, the body's natural cell recycling mechanism. Autophagy may help break down some of the excess tissue, including scar tissue, associated with endometriosis. However, this process takes time and should be approached with caution. What is the main takeaway regarding zinc and endometriosis? The key distinction lies in the source of zinc. Organic zinc from animal products is beneficial and poses no risk of excess. Inorganic zinc from plant-based foods and supplements, however, can accumulate in the body, cause tissue damage, and contribute to conditions like endometriosis. Therefore, prioritizing an animal-based diet that provides organic zinc is recommended. Exploring the link between zinc and endometriosis, an analysis of Joachim Bartoll's perspective. Source: Supplemented Inorganic Zinc Increase Endometriosis Risk by Joachim Bartoll. Introduction: Deconstructing the Medical News Today article. This section critiques a Medical News Today article that suggests a link between high zinc intake and endometriosis risk, arguing that the study fails to differentiate between organic and inorganic zinc sources. Bartoll emphasizes the importance of distinguishing between naturally occurring organic zinc found in animal products and inorganic zinc found in plant-based foods, supplements, and fortified foods. 2. The dangers of inorganic zinc. Bartoll explains that inorganic zinc undergoes a conversion process in the body, resulting in a low absorption rate and potential accumulation in tissues, leading to damage. He criticizes the study's methodology, arguing that relying on 24-hour dietary recalls and failing to consider zinc source is flawed. Bartoll highlights the study's finding that higher zinc intake may increase endometriosis risk, attributing it to the consumption of inorganic zinc sources. 3. Understanding endometriosis and the role of zinc. This section provides an overview of endometriosis, describing it as a condition where endometrial tissue grows outside the uterus, causing pain and other complications. Bartoll argues that endometriosis is a consequence of a chronic healing response triggered by the presence of toxins and inorganic substances in the body. He explains the crucial role of zinc in activating matrix metalloproteinases, MMPs, enzymes essential for tissue repair and breakdown, and how inorganic zinc can disrupt this process. 4. The function of metallothionein in zinc regulation. Bartoll refutes claims that metallothionein traps zinc and reduces its availability for enzymatic processes, explaining that metallothionein primarily binds to inorganic metals and minerals to facilitate their elimination. He emphasizes that elevated metallothionein levels often indicate an increased presence of inorganic toxins in the body, particularly in individuals with poor diets and chronic inflammation. Bartoll reiterates that high levels of inorganic zinc can lead to immunosuppression and further contribute to the development of endometriosis and other chronic inflammatory conditions. Addressing endometriosis through dietary changes. Bartoll advocates for the elimination of all inorganic zinc sources from the diet, recommending a transition to a fully animal-based or carnivore diet to ensure sufficient intake of organic zinc. He suggests incorporating prolonged fasting to promote autophagy, a natural cell recycling mechanism that can help break down damaged tissue and potentially reduce scar tissue. 6. Conclusion: embracing an animal-based approach for optimal health. Bartoll concludes by emphasizing the importance of understanding the distinction between organic and inorganic zinc and the potential health risks associated with the latter. He encourages individuals suffering from endometriosis to adopt an animal-based diet, emphasizing the bioavailability and non-toxic nature of nutrients found in animal products. Bartoll reiterates his stance that an animal-based diet is the optimal approach to achieving and maintaining optimal health. Summary. This source is a blog post by Joachim Bartoll, a self-described animal-based nutritionist, discussing a study that suggests a potential link between high dietary zinc intake and an increased risk of endometriosis. Bartoll argues that the study is flawed because it does not differentiate between organic zinc found in animal-based foods and inorganic zinc found in supplements and plant-based foods. He claims that inorganic zinc can be harmful, contributing to endometriosis by accumulating in tissues and hindering the body's natural healing process. Bartoll advocates for a fully animal-based or carnivore diet to avoid these issues and recommends avoiding inorganic zinc sources. From the source material which I have uploaded to you, please list 30 takeaway key points with a brief explanation supporting each of the key point. Here are 30 key takeaways from the provided source. 1. Distinction between organic and inorganic zinc. The author emphasizes the difference between organic zinc found in animal products and inorganic zinc found in plants, supplements, and fortified foods. 2. Bioavailability of organic zinc. Organic zinc from animal sources is considered 100% bioavailable to humans, meaning the body can easily absorb and utilize it. 3. Toxicity of inorganic zinc. Inorganic zinc requires conversion, chelation, in the body, with only a 10 to 60% conversion rate. The unconverted portion can accumulate in tissues and cause damage, acting as a toxin. 4. Animal-based diet and zinc. Following a natural human carnivore diet would eliminate concerns about zinc imbalance because organic zinc from animal foods is easily absorbed and discarded if in excess. 5. Endometriosis and chronic healing response. Endometriosis, the growth of endometrial tissue outside the uterus, is attributed to a chronic healing response triggered by tissue damage. 6. Zinc's role in tissue repair. Zinc plays a vital role in activating matrix metalloproteinases, MMPs, enzymes essential for tissue repair and growth. 7. MMP2 and MMP9 in endometriosis. Women with endometriosis may have higher levels of MMP2 and MMP9, enzymes that break down damaged tissue in the female reproductive system. 8. Tissue remodeling and MMPs. MMP2 and MMP9 are involved in tissue breakdown and repair during menstruation, ovulation, and endometrial tissue remodeling. 9. Elevated MMPs and tissue damage. Higher than normal levels of MMP2 and MMP9 indicate ongoing tissue damage, likely caused by toxins. 10. Toxins and endometrial tissue damage. The author argues that toxins, not the body's own processes, cause damage to endometrial tissue, leading to the need for repair. 11. Chronic inflammation and endometriosis. Continuous exposure to toxins and nutrient deficiencies can create a chronic loop of detoxification and repair, resulting in chronic inflammation and endometriosis. 12. Scar tissue formation. The chronic healing process, driven by toxin exposure and nutrient deficiencies, can lead to the formation of scar tissue and extra cell mass in the affected area. 13. Nutrient deficiencies and healing. Nutrient deficiencies, common in those consuming a plant-based and processed diet, can hinder detoxification and healing, contributing to endometriosis. 14. Metallothioneин's role. Metallothionein is a protein that binds to inorganic metals and minerals, rendering them harmless and facilitating their expulsion from the body. 15. Metallothionein and inorganic zinc. Metallothionein binds to inorganic zinc, indicating that the zinc is not being absorbed and utilized effectively. 16. Metallothionein levels in inflammation. Increased metallothionein levels during inflammation reflect the body's attempt to detoxify and repair damage caused by inorganic toxins. 17. age and metallothionein. Metallothionein levels tend to rise with age due to the accumulation of inorganic toxins over time. 18. Dietary recommendations for endometriosis. The author advises eliminating inorganic zinc from the diet by removing supplements and plant-based sources of zinc. 19. Animal-based diet as a solution. Transitioning to a fully animal-based or carnivore diet is recommended to provide the body with organic, bioavailable nutrients. 20. Prolonged fasting and autophagy. Prolonged fasting can stimulate autophagy, a process that may help break down unneeded tissue, including scar tissue, over time. 21. Immune system as a misnomer. The author challenges the concept of an immune system, arguing that the body's response is simply detoxification and repair of tissue damage. 22. DNA as a theory. The author expresses skepticism towards DNA as a scientific concept, calling it a silly pseudoscientific theory. 23. Criticism of plant-based diets. The author strongly criticizes plant-based diets, referring to them as extremely unnatural and toxic and plant-based slave slop. 24. Criticism of medical professionals. The author uses derogatory language to criticize medical professionals and researchers who promote plant-based diets or do not distinguish between organic and inorganic zinc. 25. Criticism of studies and surveys. The author expresses doubt about the